Hello and welcome back, Voyagers. This is your Captain Amelia speaking. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that is actually very important and you probably haven't really thought too much about. But as an international student, you probably need to understand some cultural things because different countries have different cultural practices and common knowledge for everyday life. So today we're going to be talking about Canadian workplace culture. And I have decided to do 10 in like a numerical way, 10 things to really consider in the Canadian workplace. And we'll dive in, guys. So why is knowing the workplace culture important? Well, there's many different reasons for understanding it. One, that it's very easy to transition into the workplace. I'm assuming a lot of international students want to work, especially after they graduate. And if you want to work in Canada, there's a type of culture and it makes it a lot easier if you understand it before you just get thrown in the deep end. You also learn some skills that are transferable. So when you know how the workplace might work and how it would flow, you'll really be able to go from a workplace to another workplace, things like that. It also helps you build your communication skills because communication is very important. And if you're not on the same page about what your beliefs and workplace environment is, it causes a lot of miscommunication. Then it builds relationships because you have open communication. You build relationships with other Canadians or other international students, just people in general. So you really build those relationships. It assists in community engagement. So you're able to communicate effectively with your community. People understand you, and it builds that sense of trust with other people. And obviously, well, maybe not obviously, it makes work more enjoyable for everyone when everyone's on the same page and understands what's going on, right? So number one of my 10 list is body language. So when sometimes I speak here, you can see I use my hands a little bit. I kind of move my head. Body language is very important. It's the first impression you will give to someone because communication is approximately 80% body language, 20% what you're actually saying. And it really sets the tone for the workplace and future interactions within the workplace. Because if you show up kind of, it seems like I wouldn't know what I'm talking about, right? Or I really don't have that confidence. You need to hold yourself in a professional and confident manner, like sitting up straight, standing up straight, doing a firm handshake, giving a smile. It really gives that sense of openness and credibility, essentially. Next, number 2 on our list, personal presentation. It kind of goes a little hand in hand with body language. So research the dress in accordance to the dress code. So, sorry, I said that very strange. You need to research and dress in accordance to the dress code for the environment you're going into. So let's say you're working in a warehouse. Their dress code would probably involve high-vis work pants, dirty clothes sometimes happens. Whereas in an office environment, you would need to dress probably more business casual, like a little suit, a dress shirt, things like that. So doing your research and dressing for the dress code is very important. So business casual in most cases, unless you're more of like a tradesperson, is often a fail-proof case. So if you're not really sure, dress business casual. For an interview, you're probably sitting down unless it's a practical interview. So that's the best way to go. But always be prepared to wear your mask. I'm not wearing one, obviously, because I'm in the comfort of my own space. But since it's COVID-19, all these measures are still in place. Wear a mask and just be prepared to wear one because you're going to be in close contact with that person. Avoid wearing extra fragrances. This is very important in the Canadian workplace culture. A lot of people are allergic to fragrances, and a lot of places will often say it's fragrance free. So just a little advice there. And always try to dress to impress. A nice saying I was always taught here in Canada was dress for the job you want, not the job you have. So if you want to give that extra zhuzh and that extra kind of confidence to your interview, dress to impress. Always try to avoid jeans and shorts when possible. It seems a little informal. So try to avoid those. And try to dress more conservatively when possible. For women, don't show too much cleavage, things like that. It's just a common practice here in Canada and workplace culture. On to number 3, personal space. I know in some countries, being close is like a cultural thing. You're just always close to each other. In Canada, we tend to like our personal space in our workplace culture. However, with COVID-19 measures still in place, this really isn't too hard to remember because we're always trying to distance ourselves from others whenever possible. There's instances where you will have to approach somebody, like maybe when you're introducing yourself, you're shaking their hand, saying, hello, my name's Amelia, nice to meet you, give them a smile, be courteous, and also sanitize when possible. That'll keep everyone safe. All right, number 4. Eye contact. Eye contact is very important. It gives a sense of interest and trustworthiness to the person who's interviewing you. It shows that you're engaged with what they're saying, and it indicates confidence. Eye contact's very hard. I never used to be great at it. It does take a lot of practice, but it's very important skill to learn. However, you don't want to stare someone down. That's kind of like, it's kind of weird and off-putting. So you want to make sure you're giving eye contact, but you can also break eye contact every now and again or blink and things like that. You don't want to seem scary or domineering to anyone. That's just not great. Like I said, these are all things you can practice. Number 5, let's talk about handshaking, shaking hands. I mentioned this a couple times. There's 3 key things to remember when doing a nice handshake. You want to have a firm, sturdy grip when you're introducing yourself. Like I said, you'd be like, hello, my name's Amelia, nice to meet you. And you can hold in firm handshake for about 2 to 5 seconds. After that, it gets kind of awkward. And then you're just holding someone's hand and it's just like, yeah, you don't want that. And then always kind of give a smile. It shows you're interested and you're happy to meet them. You're happy to be at that interview. It's a very basic one, but it really can set a tone for the interview. Number 6 on our list, greetings. Like I said, when you say hello and introduce yourself. So when you first introduce yourself, you should use your full name because they may not know which Amelia you are or which Tiffany you are. There might be other people named that. So you always use your full name. Using a ma'am or sir is quite common as well in Canada workplace culture, but you have to be careful not to misgender somebody. There's lots of LGBTQ friendly people, non-binary, transgenders, things like that. They're all valid. When in doubt, just use the name they give you. And it's okay to ask what they would like to be called. It's very common in Canadian workplace culture now, and it's very casual sometimes. So sometimes they might say, oh, just call me Amelia by their first name. So don't be put off by being able to call someone by their first name if they're your employer or supervisor. It is just a common Canadian workplace culture. Also, when you are leaving or entering a workplace, let's say you have the job already, or you're just heading into a building, it's always customary to say hello or good morning or good day, things like that. It kind of gives you that sense of you actually care about someone else, and it kind of livens up the area. And if you're leaving the workplace, you can be good night, have a good evening, things like that. That can go a long way in just building morale in your environment and people feeling like they can trust you. Just little tips and tricks. Here we go on to number 7. All right, media use. So it's 2022 and media and social media are everywhere. We can't escape it. It is what it is. This is the world we live in now. But a lot of companies in Canada and around the world use social media platforms to promote, post jobs, and other things like that. Using media as part of your job is very common now for promotion and marketing. However, you need to make sure you maintain personal communications away from your working hours. So unless you're on a break or a lunch break, or you're not in front of customers, do not have your phone or things like that out. It's just a little unprofessional. But you can use work media for work if you are that person and you need to do some things like work, like me. Right now I'm using a media, but this is for work. You have to learn to separate your work from your personal life. That happens. However, it is encouraged to make friends with your colleagues and stuff, which I'll talk a little more about. But just make sure that company stuff's company stuff and personal stuff is personal stuff. Every company usually has a communication policy, so just always make sure to check in with that. And as I mentioned, the next one here, number 8, is socializing. In the Canadian workplace culture, being social and friendly and talking with your coworkers and colleagues during the day is very common and is very encouraged, actually. It builds a sense of team, morale, collaboration. It just really brings the whole environment together. And getting to know each other is important. You can tell if people are having an off day, if they need some assistance, if they're not feeling well, things like that. However, you just got to make sure you maintain professionalism. It is a workplace. So you want to avoid using foul language, which would be terrible. And make sure you try to do personal socializing more over a break time or when it's not busy and not in front of customers, because your customers and clients are the priority in a workplace. And some topics to avoid in the workplace include religion. That's a very touchy topic. Gossiping about other colleagues is very bad. You shouldn't do it in the workplace. It causes a toxic work environment, and it's no bueno, not very great. So try to avoid that. And like I said, avoid foul language, and try not to talk too much politics. That can cause a lot of aggravation. All right, number 9, questions. It is very common in Canada and in the Canadian workplace to be direct and upfront and ask questions. So your employer might say, if you have any questions, don't be afraid to talk to me or your colleague. They really mean that. Don't be afraid. If you don't know something, you don't understand, or you forgot, just ask them to repeat or clarify a task. They would rather you ask for help than to struggle through, because one, that just wastes people's time. It causes bad efficiency. And it's not always about that, but it really makes you feel more comfortable in your job when you have people that will back you up. It's strongly, strongly encouraged. It avoids confusion, mistakes, and gets the job done better. It brings that more team morale and collaboration. So always don't be afraid to ask questions. And lastly, number 10, workplace values and etiquette. This is a little larger one. However, it is very important to talk about. So some workplace values and etiquettes here in Canada include kindness, which can be assisting others when needed, saying please and thank you, and asking for help from someone else. It goes a long way to say please and thank you. Punctuality. Punctuality is very important in the Canadian workplace culture. Not showing up to your job on time really shows an apathetic attitude to the employer, which makes them think you don't care and that you're just there for the money. Could be true, but you still don't want to give that impression, because then that can lead to bad outcomes for you. And it is very customary for when you have a shift, to arrive about 10 to 15 minutes early, that giving you time to put your stuff away in the locker area or go to the lunchroom, make sure your lunch is in the fridge, things like that, and helps you get into the workplace attitude. Courtesy. If you're going to be late, things happen. Emergency could have happened, a crash, you just haven't slept in or something happened. Just call and let your employer know. They'd rather know and be able to do a little bit of coverage for you than you just not saying anything and showing up late. It's just a little courteous to give them a little heads up. And employers are people too. We're people. We understand that life happens, and it just really gives that sense of belonging and loyalty, and that you care about your employer and the job, and you're not just lollygagging around for no reason. Also nice to be courteous and clean up after yourself and leave areas clean for the next colleague. Pretty straightforward. Don't leave your workplace mess, because that just really aggravates the next person and then causes some toxicity. And never make assumptions. Don't assume things at all in the workplace. Always clarify, ask questions. That's just courteous. Don't assume someone is a certain way based on how they look. It's just courteous to treat everyone equally in the workplace environment. And I mentioned loyalty. Brands and companies love loyalty from their employees. So if you're working at a store, generally you would shop there because usually you might get some benefits and stuff. But sporting their products and showing the passion for the brand, even when you're not working, can be great. And being an ambassador for your company brings that sense of loyalty and can also make you stand out in the workplace. That's a very good culture that we have here in Canada, being ambassadors for your employer. Because clearly you work there, you should probably like what they're doing. Otherwise, you're not in a good workplace. And lastly here, fairness. Just like with courtesy, treat all colleagues and clients with equality. Don't assume anything. Always treat people with respect and always try to smile. Even when you're having a terrible day and you just want to go home and have a nap or eat some dinner, just put on a smile, because even the angriest clients or customers get that sense of you just want their best interest in mind. By giving them a smile, you're bringing that sense of calmness and you're not going to attack them. So that's another thing to be aware of. All right. Thank you for listening to me babble a little bit today about Canadian workplace culture. I hope you found this useful. I sure think it would be useful for any international student. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions for more content, please comment below in the comment section. Or you can reach out to us on our social media platforms, which can include Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, WeChat, all those types of services. You can find us probably using HY Voyagers. You can also email us at captains@hyvoyagers.com. Thanks again so much for your time and attention, and have a wonderful rest of your day, Voyagers. Bon voyage!